So Richard, sweet boy, I actually came across Richard when his name was Elmo, and he was at the Palm Valley Animal Shelter. He was 10 years old at that point. And I just thought it was funny that he was named Elmo because he did not look like an Elmo. He looked like a grumpy old man. And I thought to myself, okay, this poor dog, he's a senior at that point. He was already 10. I'm like, we're interested in pulling this dog. And I believe we were living in McKinney at the time. And a few days later, I checked in and he had been adopted. And I thought, great, he found his forever home. Fast forward 3 years later, he ended up back at the shelter. And I believe the story was the daughter left for college and the parents dropped him off at the shelter. He was unrecognizable. I understand that 3 years have gone by, but it was a completely different dog that could barely walk. Unfortunately, we understand that shelters have protocols that they have to abide by. The part that I'm confused about with the protocols that certain shelters have that they have to abide by is that they decided to neuter Elmo when he came back the second time. So he wasn't neutered when he was 10 years old. They neutered him when he was 13 years old, and that caused a ton of complications. So unfortunately, because of his age and probably not being in a sterile environment at the shelter, Richard did get an infection from his neuter site. The shelter put out a plea. He could barely walk. He was knuckling his back legs. He was declining very quickly. So we decided to pull him. We got a transporter. She drove the 9 hours from South Texas to Dallas, and we got him into a vet immediately. Richard had a fever of 105, and we did not think that he was gonna pull through. He was hospitalized for 3 days, and I'm laughing right now because he did not want to touch any of the food that they were giving him there. They tried, kibble, then they tried wet food, then they tried like grilled chicken, wouldn't touch it. The only thing that Richard would eat during his 3-day stay at the hospital was cheeseburgers. So we were door dashing cheeseburgers to the hospital 2 or 3 times a day so that Richard would eat. So that was his go-to meal while he was staying at the hospital, but he obviously pulled through. We were able to get him walking, and not only walking, Richard zoomied. He zoomied everywhere he went. Initially he was obviously still stiff and had a hard time moving around, but once we got him on some good food, some pain management, some joint supplement support, Richard thrived. He literally didn't walk anywhere. He jogged, zoomied everywhere. We have so many clips of him coming out of his crate and literally like hitting the corner and then going outside. And we have clips of him in the morning with the sunrise, when it was snowing in February, late at night. We have so many clips of Richard just doing zoomies around the yard. Richard has since passed away. He unfortunately started showing signs of doggy dementia, where he was very confused. He was circling a lot. He would unfortunately go potty on himself in the middle of the night. So, we decided for Richard's sake, the last few months with us were amazing and he got to experience a lot. So we decided it was his time and we took him into our vet and we crossed him over. But it's, Richard's revenge tour is one that we're always going to remember. Not only because, we saw him initially when he came into the shelter and it kind of broke our hearts that we were a little late to tag him, but that he was always meant to be with us, and that he ended up with us in the long run and got to live out his golden months with us. So Richard will always be a special story for us, and is one of those dogs that'll be in here for a long time.